Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Spark of Genius Flesh and Blood production. Joined by my co-creator, co-commentator, co-caster, co-compatriot Rob on the right over
Hello.
there. Random on the Riptide here. As you can see,
Yeah.
doing a little bit more Riptide content. This is the Calling Manila. This is round 11, so the last round of Swiss, I believe it was. This is round 11, last round of Swiss. Both of these players are 8-2, so this is their winning in for
Mhm.
both of them. Because to get to the Calling, if I remember correctly, I think depending on how big the Calling is, but I know LA Calling was definitely X and 2. Nobody below X and 2 because it was a very big Calling. But here, I
Okay.
think there
Yeah.
were like 3 or 4 X3s because it was a smaller Calling. It's only 11 rounds versus the 13 round
13 is what's
at LA.
typically,
Well, that's
yeah.
the big one. It's like the 500 plus, 8 rounds day one, 5 rounds day two. But this one is smaller, which APAC it makes sense. But we have Riptide, which is it's nice to see. I mean, Riptide is doing
Go
okay, but this
Riptide.
is this is like a calling level Riptide. We've seen a little bit of like Nats Riptide, which is like mixed format because they have to draft also, like
Mhm.
for the most recent Nats, and it was like battle hardened Riptides and stuff. But for calling Riptides at one of these bigger events, I haven't seen too many pop up here. Based on all my knowledge, is before the Armory deck came out for Azalea, so this is not going to be the aim counter style kind of New Horizon Riptide
Right.
and facing off against Kayo, which is a very interesting matchup. Obviously, I have quite a bit of, on the KO side, I have a lot more
Experience on the
experience on the
KO.
KO
Yeah.
side. I have played against Riptide before. I did practice a little bit against Riptide. Very back and forth matchup. Kind of Riptide could definitely get edges, but like if Riptide is not able to like staunch out what KO is doing with like a good well timed trap, KO will just run you over. Especially
Mhm.
now with Sash, because I was practicing with Tunic because it was back in LA, right?
Oh,
But now
yeah.
you have Sash, so like you really need to like be on your guard, as they
Yeah.
say here.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and with that, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to mention here. This is I remember this is a very fast game because the players are quite confident in their ability. So I'm going to
Yeah.
start up
Start the
the
video.
stream here. Yeah, we got Kelvin, we
Sounds good.
got Jia Zhang here, and we'll see if there's anything kind of interesting on the side. I expect like pretty standard equipment coming out of KO. You just got Sash, Boo, Scabs,
Yeah.
Apex, and then we see. Oh, I guess the deck was out because that's the new arms. So it was out because those are the new arms from the Azalea Armor deck. So I was corrected here.
Okay. Okay.
But
Yeah.
the boots, it looks like Perch Grapplers. I think. No,
Right.
I don't know if it's Perch Grapplers or not. I guess we'll find out
No,
soon.
you're correct. I think it is Perch Grapplers. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
we
have to
do
like tilt my
see.
head sideways. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we do see
The Abyssal
the.
Depths Quiver, too. Is going in for a buff remorseless here.
Oh, that's so sad. He clashed into Blood Rush, so he doesn't get the
Oh, nice.
agility. He gets the
Yeah.
might. He whiffed on the agility. That's fine, but I kind of see the line. I personally wouldn't have blocked with the arm piece. Um, but it depends on what other I don't know what other cards he has in his hand. But like
He
if
might have been
his
saving something and just didn't want to get those on hits, those nasty on
yeah
hits on turn one.
yeah
So
he could have also had two non blocks, right? So if he had two non blocks, that also makes sense.
yeah, that's common for KO. Yeah, to
Yeah,
run into two of those and then you either just take full damage or just block take because even taking a bit of damage here doesn't really make too much sense. I think if you're coming into a blood rot plus the
yeah,
remorseless ability.
yeah.
That's a lot to take. I would rather give up a piece of armor just for that satisfaction of not having to deal with the extra
Sure.
2 or 3 damage for the remorseless.
Sure. And then we saw kind of next turn because Riptide won the clash there. So you saw the Riptide has the agility, which is pretty funny. And then you just see a CNC for 7 from KO here, just like pretty
Right.
typical stuff. And then you get to see Riptide using the arm piece there to actually fully block the 7, which is really nice because before on that arm piece, which rolling bullseye bracers, you wouldn't get that extra armor. So it's really nice to be able to like block that extra might token. So starting it back up here on Riptide's turn, we have the
Mhm.
agility token, we have the lace with inertia, and we have endless arrow. So there is no new horizon, right? So you are just playing out of your one arsenal. A lot of the times you will be running like your 7, your breakpoints for 7, your breakpoints for 10. This one has agility, which is really nice. So endless arrow has go again, and he hasn't activated his death dealer yet, which is kind of
Mhm.
nice because you're Riptide, right? So you get to have 2 arrows just by like, oh, you get Riptide for one of them.
Yep.
And if you want a death dealer, which you will with the endless arrow, and he's gonna fire a drill shot. So I think this is pretty smart from the KO side. He's just literally throwing. This is probably like the easiest block you'll have of the entire game. You
Mhm.
see a drill shot for 4, and you have the inertia token because of
Yeah.
the. And at that point, you're like, okay, you got to use your full hand. right? So if you're gonna use for your full hand, we can remember that Kayo revealed from the Clash of Agility Blood Rush, right?
Yeah, there it is.
So
Yeah.
Kayo revealed Blood Rush. You probably know what's trying to happen. So this is a
Oh
very
yeah,
very good opportunity to use your
just some
4 block
armor.
armor. Yeah, like just the easy 4
Oh,
breakpoint, right? So
we're seeing it.
we have the
Yeah.
inertia. So we're gonna see the plays on. So we're on Kayo's turn. So we see the Blood Rush pitching the blue.
Yep.
The one Blood Rush is gonna discard the card. It is a send packing, 2 floating, gonna draw 2 cards. So we're gonna see what he wants to do. He doesn't have to play the sash. He has the second Blood Rush Bellow. This is kind of wild.
Yeah.
So he played that without any thinking, which I'm kind of impressed. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of impressed. I'm gonna pause
Did
it right
one come from
after.
one came from Arsenal, right? I believe so. I didn't really catch it, but I think one was from Arsenal.
Yeah, luckily got some decent enough discards. He felt like the draws
It
off the
was worth
discard.
yeah, worth the risk.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pause it on this balance of justice block on the claw here. So he's drawing a bunch of cards. The piece here is whether he wanted to use sash or not. He could decide after the claw because it doesn't reduce the cost of the claw. So he doesn't have to worry about that. It's much easier to figure out what their blocks are. But on the flip side, if he has a trap, right, like a collapsing trap, that completely changes his hand. So you don't want to use the sash until you at the very least, because this is a double blood rush claw. This is a claw for 7, right?
This
So
is the turn.
this
You
is the
cannot miss
turn.
this turn. Yeah.
Yeah. So at the very least, you want to at least get claw damage and figure out if the trap that Riptide has will actually impact your hand enough, because you can have things like a tar pit trap, right, which stops on hits. So if you have like some kind of on hit,
Yeah.
I don't know whatever
Whatever it is.
on hit you're thinking of, yeah, like a weakest link or a CNC or something like that. No, if it's a trap from C. Anyways, that's not the
You
point.
can't really CNC, but yeah,
Yeah.
anyway.
My
Yeah.
point is you definitely want to be clawing first because the sash is so flexible you can just use it after here. So I'm gonna restart the video here after the balance block. Makes a whole lot of sense. You see double blood rush as Riptide, you're like, this is gonna be the sickest draw. This is gonna be the only point of the game I'm probably gonna be able to block with the balance effectively here, right? So
It is true. It is true. And once you block this up successfully, I think you'll feel very safe into KO.
yeah.
You're not completely safe, but at least you'll see 2 of the blood rushes, so you'll be okay.
Yeah, and he hasn't activated the balance yet. We do see a pulping. So KO deciding not to activate the sash here. Just gonna use his 2 floating. He has 3 cards. He's gonna have 2 left after this. Riptide taking the rest of the damage from the claw, only blocked with the balance, but again has not drawn the card yet. Going to discard a E-Strike. That's probably fine. And with this, I probably expect to just see one more attack. At best, it's something like swing big for like 12, which would be hilarious. See another inertia trap on the pulping, which, okay, he did not get punished because if Riptide also had a trap from the arsenal, then you get punished there because you don't get to go again, because it has dominate until it has go again.
Yeah.
And with the dominate,
Unless you block with 2 cards, then
yes,
yeah.
exactly. Well, he uses the sash. Okay, let's look at this play. I'm gonna pause right here at the massacre. So what it looks like, that's a yellow wind up. So
Okay.
he had yellow. Okay, so he's using essentially the sash to make massacre a 3 cost to a 2 cost. So he's able to use his yellow wind up to pay for it. That's essentially what he's used it for. So the Massacre is an interesting addition. So Massacre is a card that I was playing with a little bit, including 7 to 8 windups. So running the 3 blues, 3 yellows, and then 1 to 2 reds, because your basic line was pitch a blue, Massacre. Sorry, discard the windup, then pitch blue to Massacre. So then you get the Intimidate and the +2. So it was a nice 3-card play. So it's like a 3-card aid with Intimidate. Which is pretty innocuous. Like, it's something that you can do, and then you generate your might and agility, right? Now, I don't think I think he's just running the 6 windup. So it's pretty interesting to see the Massacre here.
Okay.
In this matchup,
do you think it's not worth playing if you just have the 6? Just
I personally,
too few targets, I guess.
So if you want the Intimidates, I personally just want to go for the 2 for 6. The Pack Hunt. I forgot what's called.
The
Actually,
Intimidate. Yeah,
I think
Pack Hunt.
Yeah, I think you just want Pack Hunt's still fine, because Pack Hunt off the Savage Feast would just be like, in this case, if you had Pack Hunt, it would be it'd be slightly less damage because Massacred does get the because he did discard off the Blood Rush, right? So he would
Hmm.
get +2 and then Blood Rush, Blood Rush. So yeah, but then he would. You also wouldn't have to use a sash because he has 2 floating. It pays for it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And what he did is he did the sash off the pulping. He would have had 1 floating, so it wouldn't have made any sense here. So he's
Yeah.
getting only 1 value for the sash, which
Okay.
kind of
Little
sad.
underutilized. Yeah.
You're it's essentially a 2 block tunic, which is fine, but it's kind of the low end of the spectrum. Like getting out
Right.
on attack, but it's not it's not definitely not the best because most of your cards cost 2. So the fact that you drew the 3 is a little bit unlucky, but that's just kind of what it was. We'll see what Riptide, and the reason he did that is because you have no option here. You cannot have a double blood rush turd and not get all the cards out of your hand because
Yeah. Absolutely.
there's a nurse
Yeah.
trap on the sorry, there's an inertia token, so he can't arsenal. So
Right. Which is fine.
uh
I mean, you're
yeah,
double blood rushing anyway. You don't really
yeah,
want Arsenal. Yeah.
yeah. So he got three chain wide. He got claw pulping into massacre,
Mhm.
and okay, I'm gonna pause right here. Okay, I thought he was like revealing. I thought the Riptide was revealing for some reason. He was like listing out his buffs, like he was revealing some kind of effect. But he's just
Yeah. Yeah.
actually literally playing all the buffs. Like playing Bolden Shaw, which is kind of
Okay.
fun.
Yeah.
That's an
Just
interesting
lay
way
it
of
all
doing
out.
it.
That's how fast they play. Just lay it all out.
Yeah, he's literally just like, here's all my shit, enjoy. So we have
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Seek, lace. Lace? It looks like 2 seeks, a lace with frailty, and a lace with blood
Yeah.
rot.
A lot of glare. Yeah.
Yeah, so 3, 6, 9, 12, 15.
Almost three, I guess. 15. Yeah.
Yeah. So guess he's down to 17 if I'm yeah, he's down to 17. He gets the frailty and the blood rot. Yeah,
So
okay,
he
so
just takes
those
the
were the correct.
whole damn thing.
So he has no arsenal, he has no sash. So he could destroy the double, doesn't really matter. But like if he's like I'm gonna pause like really quickly here.
Yep.
As the KO player, this makes a ton of sense because your opponent's at 14 off double blood rush. It doesn't take a ton. The way this Riptide is playing, he's playing
Hmm.
super loose. He's playing super loose. You can see with the amount of buffs in his deck
Yeah.
and the
That's true.
amount
It's a
of
lot of buff.
aggression
Yeah.
he's kind of like pulling in the matchup. His win con
Mhm.
in his mind is probably just to like azalea your way into the win, right? Now the problem is you don't have dominate as Riptide, other than like
Yeah.
murky water, but like you regularly don't have dominate,
Right.
which
So
is
closing
interesting.
out a game might be a little more challenging without dominate.
Yeah, and as KO, it's like, okay, well, my opponent's at 14. I'll take 15, go to 17. I'll get a blood rot. I'll go down to 15. I
Yeah.
have a fatigue, so my claws, the claw and the might token are essentially nullified here. I still have
Yes.
4 armor to his 3 armor, it looks like. To his trench grapplers, I still have 2/1/1. So, like, I'm
Hmm.
still in the commanding position. So, I totally understand
Yeah.
the no block here.
And you have the
And
initiative too on your turn. No
yeah,
arsenal, but that's okay. You can still
yeah.
get a really decent turn off with 4 cards.
Yeah, so pitching the blue for the red Wild Ride makes total sense here. You're going to want to start with Wild Ride. It is the easiest way to get go again versus
Okay.
something
So
like a
he
Pulping.
discards here.
Yep, discards the Assault and Battery, has 1 floating. Looks like there's going to be a block. Yeah, there's no... It's still just going to be the 7 here because Frailty doesn't matter. There is the Tar Pit Trap, which does trigger, so it'll be 1 damage over to KO.
Hmm.
And then pitching a Savage Feast for Claw. So this will be affected by the fatigue. So this will only be for 2.
Yeah.
So
Right.
going down to 11, and then there was 1 card left in hand. I don't think he knew that. Hold on. That might have been a really big misplay here. So you see at the very end, I've paused after the claw. You see KO discarding the yellow Wild Ride.
Yes.
I think he forgot that he was under Seek and Destroy. That might have been what happened here,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
right? Because your hand is what? It's so you
So
claw
you have
for
seek.
2, but like you
Yeah.
could have just used that 2 to Wild Ride instead for
Right. You
5.
might have discarded. What did he discard? Actually, he has another wild ride. Is that right? Because he had a yellow wild ride and a red wild ride in
Yeah,
hand.
so I'll rewind a little bit here. So I'm rewinding back to the first Wild Ride. He has a blue, so he
Hmm.
pitched Roughshod. He drew a card. He discarded the blue Assault and Battery, so he had 2 cards left.
Hmm.
He had a red Savage Feast, and he
Right.
had a yellow Wild Ride, which he ends up discarding
Okay. Okay.
because of Seek and Destroy. So there's actually 2 things. So you have 1 floating. After, yeah, you have 1 floating after the first Wild Ride, and you have a Savage Feast. And I would just Savage Feast here. I would use the one
Without go
floating to
again.
Savage Feast for 6, discarding the Wild Ride, and
Mm-hmm.
just come in for
Gain the might.
6.
Or I guess he
Uh,
already has might from the first wild
from the
ride.
from the Wild Ride, yeah. For the first Wild
Yeah.
Ride, you got the might, but like you're under
Mm-hmm.
Seek and Destroy, right? So
So
what he
instead of
does,
3 damage, you go for 6 essentially.
well, it's 2.
So it's 2, right? Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
6 instead
So
of 2. Yeah.
like your options like were either pitch the Savage Feast to come in for 5 off the Wild
With
Ride.
yellow wild ride, draw, discard. Yeah.
Yeah, the only difference is it's like, okay, well, you would have to you would draw the card for Savage Feast, which would be discarded from Seek and Destroy. But what if you draw Beast Within?
Then you have, well, it wouldn't really matter because you have no action point, right? Yeah, that is very very interesting why he chose not to play or pitch the wild ride for
Oh,
something else.
he must have totally no, he totally forgot that he was under Seek and Destroy. Otherwise, you would not hit him for 2 when you could be hitting him for 6. Let's see if that 4 life ends up mattering, because that would definitely be the most ideal play, right? The just you literally
Yeah, yeah, I can't
you
really think
literally
of a
use
reason why.
yeah, you have
Yeah.
one floating and one in hand in Savage Feast. You just Savage Feast for 6. Yeah, you see
Mhm.
he tries to Arsalite pause it, and then he's putting it to the bottom. And he forgot he's on Seek and Destroy, which is fine.
No.
We'll see
Yeah.
if it ends up mattering.
Yeah.
Very quite a big misplay. We'll see if Riptide can actually capitalize on this, but it's just a 2-card play here, laced with Inertia and Endless Arrow. So you just use Riptide. Riptide able to, as we talked about in the video, the deck tech, able to so efficiently come in with 2-card 7s because Riptide enables you to use a buff to load. We're gonna see Kayo just blocking for 7, getting the Might token because the Wrecker Romp is one of the blocks. Makes Wrecker Romp is the easiest thing to block off of it, and you just see a
Yeah.
2-card 10 off swing.
Yeah, very very nice. 2 might tokens, I believe.
Yeah, one from the gloves and then one from the Wild Ride from the turn before, right? So you see 10, and so your total value was like 5 off the block with another 10 on this. So it's like you're coming in for 15 off total card value, right?
Yeah.
Quite nice.
Very
We see a Murky Water being blocked, and we see a Boulder Trap, which will trigger because it's a higher power.
Because it was buffed, yes.
It was buffed. So he's gonna put one on the Scabs. That's interesting. I guess he just like okay, I'm just gonna pause right here just because it is interesting. He puts on the Scabs instead of the Fleshback because because he would get an extra value off the Fleshback, right? Because if you take away, then it's not blocking 2, it's blocking 1. Now it really depends on how many breakpoints you have. If you have more breakpoints where 2 defense matters versus 1 defense matters.
So, I think that's what it comes down to. Yeah, he prefers to have one bigger block instead of blocking twice. But then you can always just combine your 2 1s into 2 if you want to. But then you'll be using the effect of Scowling when you might not necessarily want to. So keeping the Scabs is better because you can have the flexibility of blocking just with Scabs if you want to.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. So putting on the Scabs, and then we're gonna see Riptide go down to 7, and on Riptide's turn. Another 2-card 7. We have a Lace with Frailty and a Searing Shot. So this is going to come in
Searing
for
shot. Should be for 7.
7 or 8, I guess. If you take everything, Kayo can go to 5 technically. Now
he can, yeah. The Scowling is kind of nice, I guess, but in a matchup where you're basically playing a bunch of buffs and playing an arrow, the Scowling doesn't matter that much, right? You're not really going for go again as often as you would in another Kazalia or something, I guess. But basically, one big arrow, Scowling doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think there's a couple things he can do. This is the first time I've seen KO not just slam cards in the ground, so he probably has an actual decision to make here. And you could partial block, you could full block. It looks like I do see like a Mighty Wind Up in hand. I do see an Agile Wind Up in hand, so 2 blocks. Not great. What else he's got there? I can see what he's trying to flip. He's got... Man, they flick so fast in APAC. Okay. Right, yeah. This is a Brody level flicking over there. Okay.
Okay. We're taking a full block, so.
Well, not yet. He's still flicking on my screen.
Yeah, I might be like 5 seconds ahead of you.
Yeah. Oh, so he's got the Scowling, Mighty Wind Up, and Run Roughshod. So he is going to full block out. He did use the Scowling there, so he just wanted to avoid the on hits, which is fair because like 1 value if he wants to claw, right? Like if he wants to pitch and claw, that's an extra value. He's just got a 2-card 6 here with the Agile Wind Up. So his hand was, I just paused it here for the Agile Wind Up. So right as we attack with the Agile Wind Up, his hand was pretty shit. Like
Hmm.
pretty poopy.
I think it had to
Uh,
be for him to block out there. Otherwise, you just take the 8 and come back with
well,
lethal, I think.
he had two 3 blocks, a 2 block, and a 2 block. He had a wind up, assault. No, two windups, assault, and a run roughshod. Right. Um, so if he wants to play the run roughshod, he would have to keep too many cards. Right. He'd have to pitch. He'd have to keep the mighty windup and like pitch to claw, discard the wind up with your last floating run roughshod. So that would be a 3 card play. So he would only be able to block for 2 here on that arrow for 7. He would take 6. He would take 5 plus 1 from the searing. So he would go down to make that play. He would have to go down to 7, right? Not that good. It's literally like claw into run roughshod, right? That's just
Yeah.
8 damage. 8 damage is nothing to write
Yeah.
home about, right? So instead, he just
Yeah.
decided to
Exactly.
use a 3 block, 2 block, 2 block on the armor, and then come back for 6. I think this was fine. I think his hand. I'm gonna keep playing the video here. I think it was
Hmm?
fine. Tar Pit Trap doesn't really do anything. It's just gonna block for 3. It doesn't trigger because there's nothing to trigger
Hmm.
here. Riptide going to premeditate, seek and
Yeah,
destroy,
we're seeing
bolting shot,
a fat yellow Bolton shot for I
fat yellow bolting
believe
shot.
probably for 9 here.
Yeah, 3 3 3.
Yeah.
So go again doesn't matter, obviously. Perch Grappler is
Hmm.
still on the play, so still 3 armor for Riptide, but 0 armor for Kayo. However, when you take into account the armor, you have Riptide at about 7.
Hmm.
Kayo's actually at 13. There is no armor left here. He's thinking about it again here. These are pretty good on hits because getting the
Yeah.
ponder to draw and seek and
Into
destroy means
Arsenal.
that seek and destroy isn't as important because like your opponent's at 4. You're using everything if you can,
You're
right? You're
playing
not.
everything. Exactly. Exactly.
Now, a pretty awkward scenario that he could be in that I've been in before, it's like your hand is poop and you need to roll scabs. And it's just like, okay,
Uh,
well, I could give him 3 3 blocks if I have 3 3 blocks, but given his
yeah.
headache that it looks like he has, I don't think he has 3 3 blocks.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah, I think it'd be a pretty easy block in Arsenal or block and maybe just claw. Um, but having a scab skin this late in the game, I think, is a little scary.
it
And we are
is
seeing
it's a little risky, huh? Oh, look,
yeah.
we got the zoom in here.
The zoom in,
So,
yeah, 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 yeah. So
oh man, I saw some of his cards here. Let me take another quick look. I saw Swing
okay,
Big, Smash
we
Instinct,
got pulp.
Pulping.
So we do have a full block with we have to use swing big on there,
We do have
and
three
you'll
three
have a
blocks.
pulping left to Arsenal. You can't pitch it for claw. So basically, he's deciding whether or not to full block, take a turn off an Arsenal, um, or I guess you can what you can pitch for pulping, draw. I mean, that's actually not a terrible hand if you had to go back with that hand, because you
Now,
can pulping to swing big.
the problem with that, and it's a great hand if it works. This is one of those KO hands where if I get to discard exactly what I draw, right? So you have I just paused
He
it
has a
right now.
blue
Where
smash instinct too. That's actually pretty good.
yeah, so I paused it right as he's showing his hand here. So you have blue smash instinct, pulping. So this would be perfect if he literally draws and discard nothing that's currently in his hand, right?
Yeah,
Because
right. Yeah, his
you
hand is
want a
sculpted
blue.
perfectly right now.
Exactly. His hat. That's the problem. You're sitting there as KO, and you're like, I need to draw discard the exact thing that I draw, right? As on the
Yeah.
pulping, because otherwise, that first of all, if you don't hit the 6, then you don't gain the dominate, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Which,
and
in my opinion, okay, the go again's a lot more important in this case, but dominate less so,
well,
because you're
he's
not
gonna
going to win
just.
off of it.
I mean, you're gonna. Well, yeah, okay, yeah, that's true. I'm not really thinking about the winning part. I'm thinking about extending the chain as long as possible to get the swing
Yeah,
big.
and that's why you need that go again.
Yeah, so his options are essentially he could block for 6 with like a swing big and a blue, and then he can come back with pulping. Right. So you
Blocking
block
6, in my opinion, is a
onto
little
9.
bad because you're giving the on hits anyway. I would, and he
You
might
do
even draw.
save the
Riptide
life.
might
It's
draw into a
true.
trap. He might arsenal a trap on you on your next turn. So it's a
True.
bit risky. I would probably go the all or nothing route.
Yeah, I think going the all or nothing route, it's kind of like playing to win versus playing to not lose. But I think with your
Yeah.
opponent at 4, you probably keep this hand and just swing for the fences, and you hope that the ponder does not get a trap. If the ponder gets a trap, you're just like,
Yes.
okay, well, that's life,
That's just
right?
the RNG. Yeah,
But
exactly. Yeah.
it's I think based on the Death Dealer style aggressive approach to Riptide, I would hazard to guess that he's actually not running a ton of
Like that
traps
many
outside of
traps. Yeah.
because he's already played a couple boulders, tripwire, like he maybe has not tripwire, tar pit. He might have like the legendary traps left, and then maybe a couple other, maybe like 6 or 7 traps left total. And the game is not gone very long. I don't think the chances
Right.
are that high. He ponders into a trap. He has to ponder into a trap and then arsenal it. Like he can't just draw into it. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
he needs to have it in the arsenal for the double block.
Hmm.
So I think he should probably just go for it on the KO side, but we'll see. I'm gonna play the
Yeah.
video. I'm gonna see what he's gonna do. He looks like
That
he's
or block with
deliberating,
3 cards and keep the pulping
pulping,
in
and arsenal the
arsenal.
pulpling, the
Yeah.
pulpling,
The
arsenal the
pulpling,
pulp.
exactly.
Looks like he's
That
gonna
That's not a
play
bad
it.
idea to do that, I think.
Yeah, the Secret Destroy doesn't matter because he's gonna play his full hand.
Yeah. We don't know what
Um,
the Riptide drew, I think.
I don't know what
But
he's. I don't know
it
what he
goes in
pondered.
arsenal. Yeah.
Yeah, everything goes in arsenals. So he's gonna pulping. He's gonna
So he
pitch the blue
discarded
special
the
suit.
card that he drew off the top, a yellow Wild Ride. So that's
Okay.
very, very good. He has the sculpted hand to be able to go for 14
He
damage.
Yeah, he hit the 1 for 3. He hit the 1 and 3. He literally hit the 1 and 3 that he needed to. Pulping does have dominate, so the Perch Grapplers are going to come in clutch here,
Yeah,
blocking
very important there.
5.
Yeah.
So he's only going to take 1.
He is clawing though.
Oh, he has to. He has to claw.
Oh,
He
to
goes
claw
go
here.
again off the discard, and then he has swing bigs for 8. Like he has to do
He
this,
had
otherwise,
enough. That's right. Yeah, yeah.
because this is 8. So
Oh, that
unless
was
he
it.
has 2-3 blocks in hand, he does
Oh,
not. He
he
has what was
doesn't.
that? It
Yeah.
looks like 2 codexes in hand. So he had codex
Oh,
armor. So he only has 5 armor. He dies at exact lethal.
yikes.
So
Yeah.
interesting game.
Hmm.
Um,
Very fast paced. Very just all or nothing kind of game plan. Go in, unload all the boss, play a single arrow for like 12, 13, and then KO with the same game plan. Take the full on hit and everything. Take the full arrow and then come back swinging.
yeah, I think to take that risk was the correct play given your opponent's life total.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I
I think
think
so
the
too.
like
Yeah.
I think like the blocking and then giving him the ponder and only coming back for like 6 dominate, making him light tokens probably not amazing. Because he would have just because specifically he doesn't have sorry, specifically because Riptide still has a bunch of armor on the field. Like he still has grapplers, he still has trench. He's gonna be able to full block this if he wants to, with 3 armor and a 3 block if he really wants to. And then you've literally done nothing. You see he's on 3 cards
Hmm.
plus an arsenal, and you're at I guess you're at like 10, but like it's still 10 is not that much for 3 cards plus an arsenal. That's like buff arrow, and that's 10 off any 0 for 4 arrow, right? And then you have to
Right.
give him a card. You have no like you could have no blocks. Very dicey. So I think at this particular point you kind of just need to go for that particular play. And then let's say
Yeah.
he has the wild ride but discards like the swing big. Wild ride's not that bad, right?
Yeah.
You can come in, you could take both codexes. Like he would need to give you both codexes to live, because otherwise 1 codex and you're dead for 3 life, unless you want to give armor.
Yeah.
It's still pretty okay. And there's a lot of stuff that you can have at the 2 cost variety. Like that pack hunt I mentioned, right? But he was running
Oh,
Massacre, not pack hunt. But like if he still had Sash, that could have been important, right? So
yeah. I will also mention that if Riptide did draw a trap here, depending on what the trap is, of course, it might not have mattered too much because the hand was pretty clunky on the Riptide side. So you don't really have that like
yeah,
danger of like coming back with a strong hand as in Riptide with like
that
one
hand
one card.
the hand sucks. Codex
Yeah.
Murky Bolt and Shot. That hand
Yeah, it's a
actual
little
dog.
rough. Yeah, and you can't keep more than one card even with the trap. I think you'd have to give everything and keep one thing behind, which you can codex if you want, I
Yeah,
guess, for maybe like a cheap arrow. But I think that's
yeah.
basically all you can do.
What was his arsenal? I want to see if the Riptide actually shows his arsenal here.
Yeah, I'm
What was your
curious.
arsenal,
Yeah.
Riptide? He doesn't show it. He just flips to like when he would eventually get a trap.
Oh,
Like, oh man, it was
he
here,
like
man.
flashed it for like a split second,
Yeah, I
and
didn't
I
see it.
couldn't catch it. But, oh well,
Yeah.
that's okay. We can assume it's not a trap. We can assume it's just some kind of arrow, I guess.
Well, if it's a trap, you would have just blocked with 3 blocking the trap, and then
Of
no
course.
go, no
Yeah.
go again on the dominate. Your turn is actually
Um,
stuffed, and you lose the game.
if it's a buff, well, it doesn't really matter because he dies anyway. But if it's a buff, you can buff with Codex, I guess, and that's not bad.
Yeah, I guess your
But
hand
yeah,
is still not very good, but at least you don't get hit with claw swing big, which is the point.
yeah,
Because you don't
yeah.
get the go again because you've been blocked.
Mhm.
Sorry, blocked with 2 cards. But that was the game. Very very close game. I think this variant of Riptide probably does quite decently into KO going second. I don't know about going first personally. I think in this particular matchup, if you're running this aggro piece, it definitely leans a little bit more on the dice
Do you
roll.
know who chose the turn order
I would have to assume that KO chose
to go second? Yeah,
yeah, to go second. I cannot think of a reason why KO would want to go first into Riptide. Unless you
yeah.
like are trying to spike out
Intimidate
cast
or
bones.
yes, cast bones. Yeah, or just
Well,
go for a
it's
cheeky dominated.
Yeah,
Um,
it's pulping or cast bones. Those are literally
Hoping,
your
yeah.
only two cards that benefit from you going turn 0. And into Riptide, I don't think you need to do either. I think like Riptide
Yeah.
already starts at 38. Riptide's gonna
Mm.
have clunky hands. I don't really think you want to take that risk. But that was the game.
Yep.
If you like this kind of content, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. This will be kind of the last content before Rosetta because our next videos will be based on after
Some
Tampa
spoilers,
Bay.
probably.
Yeah, spoilers
Yeah.
after Tampa Bay. We'll see kind of what comes up. Not as much spoiler content because of what James White kind of said. He wants to keep a lot more of it secret. For
Yep. We'll
Tampa,
find out a lot of things as they get opened
on Tampa. Yeah,
in the
Tampa.
premiere.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'll
we're
be
not going to be
exciting.
there. We're not going to be there, but we're going to watch with bated breath here, and we'll probably put a video like the day after, something like that. So, with that, wherever you're watching in the world, have a good night, good afternoon, or good morning, in the opposite order there. Bye for now.
Yeah.